final topic of the day, Andrade, one of the many Mexicanos in WWE, has left screaming from the WWE offices. He's made history, by the way. He's made history. He is the first pro wrestler in history to go to the WWE, then to AEW, then back to WWE, then back to AEW. That was the history. And now he's made more history. Because after that last AEW, he has now found himself in the in-between.
Oh my God. The in-between.
He has now found himself between prospects. He has now found himself betwixt situations. So we didn't talk a lot. We didn't talk at all, I think, last week about Andrade because we were doing the 2 pay-per-views last week. So we didn't really do any stories or anything like that, news things. We kept it pretty basic to the two topics about the pay-per-view. But Andrade has been making all kinds of news for all the right and wrong reasons. I don't think he's done anything right, but there are right reasons to be discussed here. I think he's done everything wrong, which I think also needs to be discussed about how wrong it is. So I'm going to open up this topic by saying this. I think I catch a lot of heat by using the analogy about the guardrail, because that's the one that I used to always hear veterans talk about. That guardrail isn't just an actual physical guardrail in pro wrestling, it's a metaphor. You always hear wrestlers say that you could tell when someone is supposed to be on the other side of the guardrail, right? When you're in the inside part of the guardrail, when you're a wrestler, you're supposed to be professional. You're supposed to be business-minded. You're supposed to treat this as an occupation, as a job. This is what you're supposed to use to feed your family, to pay for college, to put food on the table, so to speak. You have to treat the wrestling business like it's described as a business. So whenever you have a wrestler come into the wrestling business and he smells and he reeks of mark and of fandom and all that shit, they always say, all right, here's a guy who belongs on the other side of the guardrail with the rest of the fans, with the rest of the marks, right? There's a lot more marks on the inside of the guardrail than there are on the outside these days. Actually, if you read online, it tends to be more business people on the fan side now more than there are people that are actually in the business. Now, I'm not saying this to say that Andrade is a mark or a fan or anything like that. What I will say is that he's an idiot. He's an idiot, and anybody that thinks the way that he thinks is a fucking idiot. Because you raised a fabulous point. Because when I first brought this up as a topic, I went on this whole rant about how much of a moron you have to be to sign a WWE contract. Because a WWE contract, and we can sit here chapter and verse. I wrote it somewhere. I think it's in my notepad. Shout out to the Cornet podcast, to Brian and to Jim, because Brian happens to have an older copy of the WWE contract that has the non-competes in it, what the penalties are, and he breaks it all down on their show. So I'm not going to copy and paste from their show. We go listen to the episode, he'll break it all down. But when you listen to Brian break down all the ways that they tried to input that non-compete and what happens to you should you not abide by the non-compete, it's all in there. It's all in the wording. It's right there in front of you. This is what we expect. This is what we are going to push and enforce. Should you break the contract and breach it in any way, it's all there. To sign that contract is one of the stupidest fucking things you could do. Even when they read it.
That's what you said.
Yeah. Even when they read it.
However.
And Jim is a former WWE employee.
However.
And your point was, go ahead.
However.
Yeah.
It would be even stupider
to
not accept the salary and the paycheck they're about to give you.
Well, here's where you got me.
You suck it up first.
Yeah, right.
You get paid.
And then you worry about that shit.
You worry about that shit.
Okay.
later.
Here's the problem that I have with that statement, because you brought it up yesterday, and that was a fabulous point.
It was fabulous.
Because that's why I brought up the mark thing at the beginning of this. Because only a mark, only a fan, only a person who thinks strictly as a fan and not a businessman would look at that contract, read it verbatim. Or maybe they didn't read it. Maybe they were smart and they had a lawyer or someone with legal background read it and translate to them what this means. The point is that they were given the option to decide, do I want to sign this or do I not want to sign this? And the only reason a person would sign this is because exactly that. I grew up wanting to be a WWE superstar. I would give anything to be a WWE superstar. Yes, the pay is great.
They signed a deal with the devil.
They signed a deal with the devil. They sold their soul away.
They sold their soul.
Uh-huh.
And right now, you just made a really good point that you didn't make the other day.
Which was?
You were like, maybe translated. Maybe he is el estúpido because nobody translato to him. Okay.
But I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there in a second. I'm gonna get there. But you chose to sign this despite knowing what's in it, right? So I incorporate that to fan, because I grew up a WWE fan. I watched it my whole life. You know that. Everyone in my family knows that. My earliest memories in life was watching Hogan and the whole shebang, right? Yeah, it doesn't work well for me either, brother. But I watched all that shit when I was a kid. I grew up wanting to be a WWE superstar. And if you would have given me that contract at 18, 20, 21 years old, I don't know if I would have read the fucking thing. I would have just been like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll sign the whole deal. And even if you're not that young, even if you are experienced, let's say you've been in the game a while, you've been on the indie scene, you've had a few tryouts, a few dark matches, maybe a small little TNA taste, maybe you did some shows for AEW, trying to get that look, trying to get that opportunity, trying to get that break. And you've been doing it for a while. Maybe you're in your mid-30s right now, and something clicks, something hits, and all of a sudden the WWE is a lot more interested. And they bring you to the Performance Center, try you out, get a few reps in, maybe do a dark match. They like you.
Yeah.
Here, we're going to offer you a contract. That person would still sign the contract, but for a different reason than the 18-year-old would. The 18-year-old's going to sign it because I've always wanted to be blah, blah, blah. When you're in your 30s, you're not worried about that anymore. You're older now. You got bills and shit, right? So now you're signing it because you need the money. You just said it 2 seconds ago, right? You throw it all out there. You get the money, you get paid, and then you worry about it later. That guy is going to do that, especially if he's been busting his ass 15, 16, 17 years on the indie scene to try to make it to the big show. And now there's a contract on the table.
But is this Andrade's position?
No, it's not. And that's why he's a fucking idiot, because he's not in any of those positions. He didn't grow up wanting to be a WWE superstar. He didn't come into WWE kissing everybody's ass and wanting to be the next Shawn Michaels. He didn't come in with that kind of passion. He's not a fan. He's not a mark for WWE. He's also not poor. The man's got money. He already ran through WWE and got their money. Then he overcharged Tony Khan for his services in the first run for AEW. Then he took another fucking check from WWE, and now he just signed a brand new, fresh check from AEW. He's got money. So there's no passion there, no fandom, no markism. He's not poor. He's got creative control. So how did he wind up here? He's just fucking stupid. He's just fucking stupid. That's the only thing I can land on, is he's just fucking dumb. How would he, if he's been dealing with wrestling contracts since the beginning, let's say in CMLL he didn't have a contract, right? We don't know how they handle business down there. Let's pretend that NXT was his first contract with WWE. He's dealt with many contracts since. He's dealt with the non-compete before. His first WWE run, he had the non-compete. He didn't go running to Dynamite right after he was done with WWE. It was months. Up until this point, he had played the game absolutely perfectly. Why do you think he wound up at both of these companies? He knows how to play the game. So how did he miss that? How did that happen? because now it's costly. Because now, before when Punk challenged the 90-day non-compete, when Del Rio challenged the 90-day non-compete, as I was doing research, I found out that Brock Lesnar was able to beat the non-compete.
He was.
He was. All three of those individuals fought it. They won, but here's the deal. They didn't breach. When they fought those clauses, they hadn't gone anywhere yet. They waited until the court cases were settled before they went anywhere. They wanted to make sure it was legal and documented that the non-compete was bullshit, that they couldn't enforce it. When that was settled in court, then they went. Punk didn't go anywhere. He went home. But Del Rio went back to Mexico, and Brock Lesnar went to Japan. But they waited till after the clause was settled before they went somewhere. He was on fucking one roster one day, and then on Dynamite the next fucking, like, within the week. And WWE was like, hold up. What the fuck are you doing? And Stevie Richards did a piece on this. If you guys want to check out Stevie Richards' YouTube channel, he has his own podcast show now on YouTube. He did like 38 minutes on this whole topic about the contracts and how they're run and how what he experienced when he was there and how he sees contracts today and the whole independent contractor bullshit. So independent contractors are what all WWE superstars are labeled as, despite being treated like employees or not classified as employees. That's what keeps them away from the insurance bullshit. The wrestlers have to get their own insurance because they're independent, but they're not treated as such. In WWE, somehow they've been able to get away with independent contractors signing exclusivity contracts, which, what the fuck is that? So they're employees when it benefits them, but they're also independent contractors when they don't feel like treating them like employees. That's how they were able to win the court cases against the non-compete. You legally cannot keep an independent contractor from working in their field contractually. You could put it in the contract if you want. It won't be held up in court. It's already, every time it's gone to court, it's been taken off every time. It cannot be held up. So for everybody who's online right now saying, well, all Andrade has to do is go to court, they'll remove it, he'll be back on TV in no time. Right. But there's two things wrong with that. A, why would you sign that deal even knowing that you can fight it, but you got to spend money to fight it?
Maybe he's hoping AEW will flip the bill.
Ha! Why not? Actually, that's not too far-fetched an idea. To sit there, oh, Tony, I don't know. They lied to me.
Or maybe he told Tony, I have to wait 90 days. And Tony said, don't worry about it. Go on there, we'll take it, and we'll take care of it. I bet you know who's really stupid? He's stupid enough to do that for him.
The fact that, and we don't know. We're assuming. We're not going to talk about it like it's a factual thing. We haven't heard it. But the fact that it's that believable.
But if Andrade is back on TV in the next 2 weeks,
then we know that he flipped the bill.
Then you know AEW flipped the bill, and they said we'll take care of it.
That's why they did it, because they're like, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. Legal will take care of it.
But if WWE cease and desist goes through and Andrade's off TV for the next couple of weeks, and you see him off TV, that means he fucked up. And
well, the cease and desist was filed under the cease and desist was filed under the pretense that he's in breach of contract. If they take it to court and they prove that the non-compete is bullshit, they have to rescind the cease and desist. He can go on TV legally. But that's the other problem that people have with the contract, because the non-competes are only valid for television and pay-per-view. Meaning the 90-day...
He can do house shows?
He can do house shows. He can do indie shows. He can do anything that's not being televised. That's what the non-compete is for. It's not actually for the wrestling. It's just the wrestlers who have abided by the 90-day have done that because they wanted to be signed by people that had television.
Do you think there's something in the contract where every time they show Andrade, AEW has to pay them within the 90 days? So
within the clause itself?
Yeah, like do you think there's a clause that says, hey, he has to be off TV, but if he's on TV,
no,
you have to give
because
us
that
some
defeats
money.
the purpose of the clause. The clause is specifically put there so that he doesn't. If that was the case, they wouldn't be pushing for a cease
and then you
desist.
said something about he can't be on TV for a year?
Now, because they're saying that he's in breach of his 90-day, and the penalty for that is a year. So if they're gonna fight it, now is the time. Because letting that shit sit is no good. If they had a clause, if they had a piece of a clause that said that if he's going to be on TV, we need a cut for those 90 days. They wouldn't be. I don't think they'd be pushing for the cease and desist. They'd be like, go ahead, let him go. Tony just has to fucking send us our money. I don't think they would mind getting paid for Andrade being on Dynamite. That's like the David Justice deal. When David Justice got traded from the Yankees to the A's. And they paid the Yankees his salary to get him. Just like when they said in Moneyball. He's like, hey man, you're paying me like $4 million a year or whatever the case may be. He was just like, no, brother, you got that all wrong. We're not paying you. We're paying the Yankees. It's like they paid to get rid of you, my guy. They took a hit on the money just to get rid of you. It's the same thing here. They're not paying. WWE is not paying Andrade to be on the roster anymore. He's just not there. But they'll gladly be paid for him to be on AEW's programming. I don't think that would be an issue for them.
He only waited 2 weeks.
He only waited 2 weeks? Is that when he showed up on Dynamite? It was like 2 weeks?
Yeah, he was released September 14th and October 1st.
He was back.
He was back on Dynamite.
So in those 2 weeks, 2 whole weeks, because he was released on the 14th. Mathematically, that sounds like was that a Monday?
And the fact that AEW officials were reportedly unaware of the non-compete clause makes them appear even fucking stupider.
They shouldn't have been caught unaware. This is not the first WWE guy to come to AEW.
Exactly. They should know that this is in their clause. I mean, that this is in their contract.
They
know how WWE is with this 90 days.
They've dealt with this already. Almost all their WWE talent they've gotten has come off of that clause. So how the fuck were you caught unaware? Unless you were lied to. Unless Andrade sat there and said, no, I'm good. They fired me. I'm cleared. Which now I have to ask the question. I'm going to ask you the question.
It says right here, the contract dispute. The dispute centers on whether Andrade's contract was terminated with or without a non-compete clause.
Uh-huh.
So the WWE stance is that they reportedly contend that even though they were not paying Andrade during the 90-day period, he's still subject to the non-compete clause.
Right.
You know, so the potential legal challenge they have is that legal experts have questioned the enforceability of the non-compete clause if the company is not providing compensation to the performer during that time. So if they paid him for 90 days, then that means he has to abide by it. But if they're not paying him for the 90 days, then he shouldn't abide by it.
Right.
So that's what they're challenging.
He only waited 2 weeks. He only waited 2 weeks. So in those 2 weeks, did he get a dime? Is that how he found his way around it? So, like, let's say they get paid monthly.
if he didn't get a paycheck, he could be like,
in between that, right?
He's like, I didn't get paid after 2 weeks. They didn't pay me. So okay, so now I'm gonna.
According to the contract, if I'm taking money from them, that I can't work, but they didn't pay me. I didn't take any money.
Yeah. So it says some reports suggest that if the termination was due to a breach of contract, a different non-compete clause could be triggered, lasting up to 1 year.
Okay, so again, with the breach of contract, so the cease and desist was sent because they felt that he had broken the 90-day non-compete, but that's not the reason for the firing, which was breach of contract, which was the failed wellness tests.
Is that true? Is that what they're saying?
That's what the word getting out now is, that's the reasoning behind the firing, the initial firing. They fired him for breach of contract because he had multiple failed wellness tests. And then the non-compete kicks in, and then he breached that by going to Dynamite.
But if you're fired, do you still get paid for 90 days after?
According to what you just read, I guess so, unless he jumped the gun.
Maybe that's what he was thinking. Like,
that I'm fired, I wasn't released. Well, the same shit, but like, yeah, did he assume because of his terminate? Again, it's all in the wording. It doesn't say anything there that states that there would be anything different between him asking for a release or being fired. It just says that once he breached his contract, the 90-day kicks in, and then it's a year penalty if he breaks it. Because that's what I was saying earlier about the guys that beat the case before. They waited before they fought it. When they fought it and won, then they left. He did that in opposite. He just left. He didn't even fight it. He just dipped. That's it. He didn't even bother to. He didn't take the social media. He didn't file anything with a lawyer. There's no court date, no nothing. He just got fired. He left and he went to AEW. Now WWE is saying that he's in breach of contract. At this point now, if he would have filed a case the first time around, Andrade's case would have been
okay.
that the
So
90 days shouldn't be there.
If he was released, like let's say he was just released because they didn't want him anymore.
Okay, right.
Right. So if they
didn't have a legit reason, it was just we just want to do business anymore.
Yeah, we don't want to do business anymore. We're gonna release you. That's not necessarily a breach of contract. So I think at that point, that's when you can decide if they pay them for 90 days, then you have to uphold the 90-day clause.
Right.
If they don't pay them, you don't have to uphold the 90-day clause. But if you have improper termination, if Andrade was terminated improperly, it might nullify the non-compete clause. So if they didn't do it right, if maybe they didn't tell him that's the reason why, but then afterwards they're saying that's the reason why.
I'm having a hard time believing that they fired him without letting him know why. And I have a hard time believing that even if they didn't tell him why, that he would know why. That's going to be hard to convince a judge there was a wrongful termination then. Because if they've got wellness tests documented by a physician,
but just because you get a wellness test, like Randy Orton, because you get the test,
right,
and it says positive, that sometimes it doesn't lead to termination.
No, but if they've got multiples, then that could lead.
But maybe he didn't know that was the reason why.
Why wouldn't they tell him that?
Exactly.
He has to know why. There's no scenario where he doesn't know why.
Because if
no scenario.
If he knows why,
he knows why.
Why is he saying anything right now?
Because he knows why.
It's not like he has an NDA from WWE to not say anything. So he could say his own side of the story, but he's not saying his side of the story. He could come out and say, hey, you know what I mean? Like, I was fired, but I didn't know why I was fired. You know what I mean?
No, he's not going to be able to run that.
Why not?
I don't think a judge anywhere in the country is going to believe he had no fucking clue. He was just blindsided by this termination. No,
a lot of people are blindsided by.
I don't think he was. I don't think he was. I'm not denying that doesn't happen to people. I don't think that's his position. I don't think for 1 second. And as far as why wouldn't he come out and defend himself, I have to assume it has something to do with why he's not passing those wellness tests.
Some people are saying there's legal ramifications for AEW. Because WWE could file a lawsuit
AEW can fucking get them off the air right now if they really fucking went forward with this.
AEW?
Oh yeah, no, WWE could fuck AEW right now if they really wanted to.
They could say like, hey, like you knowingly and unjustifiably like caused Andrade to breach his 90-day,
which is also bullshit. You know if I'm AEW, I don't.
But at the same time, I don't think Tony is smart enough to ask his lawyers to look at his contract before signing a new contract. I bet I bet he was so excited for his new toy that he skipped all those steps.
Which is fucking dumb.
If found liable, AEW could be ordered to pay WWE for any lost profits or other financial harm. Which I don't see any financial harm.
The only reason I can assume, this is all assumption, but it's a logical thing for me to come up with, that AEW's legal team didn't look at Andrade's contract is because they couldn't. Because if Andrade's contract was still active for any reason, that can be considered contract tampering. Now, I know that we're all aware that he was fired and let go, but it sounds to me, based on what we're listening to, that 90-day non-compete is still considered under contract.
Because you're
getting paid. So if he's still technically under contract to WWE,
it's like your 2-week notice for a job,
right, but you're still there.
Get paid for the 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're still there for 2 weeks. You're still on the payroll. So I think in WWE's eyes, they're saying we fired him on paper. He still works for us for 90 days. And if AEW didn't see the contract, if they didn't ask, they're stupid. Get rid of your legal team tomorrow if that's the case. But if they did ask and he couldn't give it to them, then that's an Andrade mistake, because then he goes, well, what's the deal with the contract? Can we see it? Well, I can't show it to you, but I can tell you it's pretty much over and done with.
And
which is weird. If it's done and over with, let me see the contract. If you can't show it to me, that's the red flag. Something's up with that contract then.
And not only that, but
they can't say that WWE can't say AEW willingly did this without being able to prove that they did it willingly. They're not going to take that to court unless they have something that states that AEW put him in that position. Right now, all eyes are on Andrade. Because AEW can step back and go, whoa, he told us he was good. And WWE is going to sit there and say, well, you didn't ask us if he was good. Because if they ask Andrade for a contract, he says, I can't show it to you. That's one thing. But they can't ask WWE. And no one bothered to contact anybody.
I don't honestly think it's going to go far. Because
I don't think so either, but I think that's just because AEW doesn't want it to go far.
No, WWE probably doesn't want to let it go far.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said AEW. Because if WWE actually takes it to court and a judge says, you know what, a year's too long for somebody to be without money.
They're going to reverse that. There's no fucking way. He's not out for a year.
Their contract practices might be under scrutiny and looked at even more. Yeah. Maybe they don't want eyes on those little clauses.
The first time when they lost the clause lawsuits, the first time, and it never changed. That's when I think it was Del Rio who was the first to beat it. When Del Rio beat it the first time, that was the scuttlebutt throughout the industry. They're like, oh, that's it. Somebody that because what happens when any court case like that happens? They set precedent, right? That now becomes the court case that opens Pandora's box. Now we could all look at that specific court case and go, see, it's a bullshit clause. It shouldn't even be in there. See, that judge saw that. But we've had the clause in there ever since. And we've seen it enforced. And AEW doesn't have a clause, a non-compete clause. But now we're learning they do have an injury time clause. Because we've seen that with Rey Fenix. We've seen that with Miro. We've seen that when they got injured and they were trying to leave and whoa, you owe me 9 months. So it happens on all sides here. That's why I don't understand. If you have a legal team that can draw paperwork stating that Rey Fenix owes you 9 months worth of work because of an injury, how do you not know Andrade's on a 90-day compete? Someone fucked up royally in this case. I don't know if it's Andrade. I don't know if it's AEW specifically. Someone fucked up. This is a huge fuck up. The Monday Night Wars, where it was Nitro versus Raw, there were a lot of defections back and forth. You never knew who was going to wind up on whose show. That was part of the attraction to the Monday Night War. 1 minute, Rick Rude is on Raw, and then after Raw goes off the air, he's on Nitro. We don't know how that happened. Lex Luger winds up on Raw. X-Pac, who was just 6-Pac last week, is now on Raw as X-Pac. There was defections all the time, but everyone ran through legal. Those things happened specifically because the lawyers went, go for it. I've never, in my 42 years of watching wrestling, seen that breach that just happened happen. Everyone has always been so meticulous on making sure that if they're on TV, they can be there. How does this happen? Who dropped this ball?
Well,
it's insane.
Just like you said the other day, if he signed a new contract while still under another contract, then the second contract is null and void.
It's null and void.
So that means whatever payday he was getting from AEW, they're probably not going to offer him that amount again.
Yeah,
because of his lies or if he lied, if his misrepresentation,
we don't know.
If because of his knowingly or unknowingly saying things that got him on television in the first place.
He said what he needed to say.
Yeah.
To get the job.
Yes.
And now shit is really hitting the fan.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, this is his second AEW run. The first one ended when he punched Sammy Guevara in the fucking face. And that we know about.
Isn't Sammy Guevara still there?
Yeah.
So then,
but he's never been the same. He's been demoted. He's been with Ring of Honor for forever. They took him off the main show. He now makes appearances every now and again, but he's not a pillar anymore. He's just some guy now that's still on the roster. But that also is because it contributes to the fact that he keeps injuring people, including himself the other day. He gave somebody a swanton and knocked himself out because he's fucking dumb. But he was running his mouth at Andrade. Andrade told him to fuck off. They got into a whole thing. They sent Andrade home because he was having a shitty attitude about it. And he told Tony Khan, if I come back there, I'm going to punch Sammy in the face. Well, please don't do that. I'm going to punch him in the face if I see him. All right, we'll just try to remain professional. And he gets in the building. The first person he sees walking through the hall is Sammy Guevara. So what did he do? He punched him in the fucking face. That's that. And then we find out when he signs the new deal that Tony does this whole thing about it was like a radio interview. I don't know. It was some sort of interview where he was like, oh, we're glad to have him back. He left amicably. We love the idea of having him back. Like, didn't he leave because you punished him? Because he fucking punched the motherfucker in the face. Punk put a headlock on a guy and they wouldn't shut up about it. Andrade punched him in the face. You would think that would be more heat, but no. I guess Andrade wasn't a big enough star for them to latch onto, so they figured something else.
He didn't feel like his life was on the line.
Who's that? Tony? Oh, yeah. He didn't feel physically threatened.
No.
You know why he didn't run with that one, with the Andrade thing? Is because that one wasn't on film. We saw the Punk thing on film. They showed it to us. We saw him not threaten Tony in any fucking physical way, and yet still he feared for his life. We didn't see him in the locker room with Andrade, so we don't know what happened there. But yeah, so Godspeed, Andrade. Hope everything works out for you, big guy. But you guys need to figure that shit out in a big fucking way. And then they debuted him beating up Kenny Omega and adding him to the Don Callis family. And now they can't even say his name on television, so I guess that just goes away.
So they brought him in. They rushed him.
Just
to be a part of a group
to beat up one of their top baby faces and then join a group that already has like 12 people in it.
They love orgies.
It's madness.